uh, four-term governor of Louisiana and sixth congressional district candidate, Edwin Washington Edwards. And what can I say for Baton Rouge Labor Radio? I don't think we could have got Mick Jagger or Willie Nelson to get us more listeners this morning. Good morning, Governor Edwards.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Edwin, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Governor Edwards. I'm sitting here with Neal Paul Miller, the business manager of Plumbers and Steamfitters Local 198, and he's also the president of the Baton Rouge Building and Trades. And real quick, I've got a question. I ran into a poll yesterday. It was March 20th, 2014, that shows Edwin. It's Glasgow CK Group, and it's sampling size 718 plus or minus 3 points. They've got you 43%, Dan Clater 20.3, and Paul Dietzel 19.2. Now, with those numbers, I would expect that you're getting ready to get hit with American Prosperity Ads and the Koch brothers. And I was just wondering, after being off the campaign trail so long, how are you going to hold up to that?
Well, I feel very comfortable with that, and I'm very pleased. I've really never gotten into an election where I was running against 10 people and had over 40% of the vote to start with, but it makes me feel very encouraged, and I've been campaigning hard for the last 2 weeks since I announced, and I'm good to go.
Well, there's no one at the Broadmoor Barbershop that's going to vote against you, I'll tell you that much. Governor, with that said, I'm going to turn you over to Neal Paul Miller, and he has some questions for you that are labor-related, and I want to thank you for getting up early and coming on Baton Rouge Labor Radio.
Oh, I have an 8-month-old baby. I get up early every morning.
Good morning, Governor. How you doing? This is Neal.
Morning. Good morning.
Well, first of all, let me tell you how much of an honor it is to, to have you on our show. It really, truly is. Mike and I were talking earlier. I remember as a teenager, my father was very much an Edwin Edwards man, and my whole household was. So again, it's a pleasure to listen. I got to tell you right now, my whole family's listening to this show, so everybody believes in you too. And thank you for running. We do appreciate you running.
Good.
And a couple of things is one is the Employee Free Choice Act. It came up right after the 2008. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the Employee Free Choice Act would have right now they've got restrictions on and you're aware of that, how they got restrictions on unions being able to organize a particular job or any job, the fact of the matter. But how would you have voted with that Employee Free Choice Act? I already know the answer would have been you'd have been with us, but how would that have been?
Well, I certainly believe in the right of workers to organize and to get together in some kind of organization to protect their rights and to get better benefits. Unions are responsible for much of the safety conditions at work, the workplace. They're largely responsible for abolishing child labor laws. They're largely responsible for minimum wage increases and also for health care for workers, because before that happened, there were no rules or regulations, and employers did whatever they could get away with. Thank goodness that those days are over with, and one of the things that unions are suffering from now is success, because once the unions were responsible for abolishing all those bad practices, unfortunately, many people forgot that the advances and the improvements came from union organizations, and they gradually pulled away from it. And more and more politicians, I feel, in the last 10 years, actually probably 20 years, have moved to deprive organizations such as unions of the right to organize and to, in a collective way, by collective bargain or what have you, work to benefit the conditions of working men and women.
Well, and yes, sir, and that's true. And then, another thing that's going to be coming up, and surely, when you're elected, you're going to be facing, a few things, and one of them is the minimum wage. Where we stand with that one.
I'm gonna vote for the minimum wage. It's especially important, I think, in Louisiana because so many of our workers are working in places where they're working for minimum wage. And it's just impossible in this day and age for a person to actually have any kind of standard of living working for $7 or $8 an hour. And I just feel like it's an opportunity that we have to try to better the working conditions of a lot of men and women who want to work, who do work, but are having a hard time making it based upon the wages they're now paid.
Wow. And then the another one is going to be the Paycheck Fairness Act of 2013-14, with the Sexual Discrimination, and it's really the Fair Labor Standard Act. What about that one?
I'm sorry. Will you repeat that, please?
The Paycheck Fairness Act of 2013-2014. Eliminate the sexual discrimination. A woman deserves the same amount of money as a man on the paycheck. That's been shot down a few times, and it's going to be coming back. It's in the Senate right now.
Well, I think that people in a labor organization should have a right to decide what they want to do, how they want to run their organization, as long as it's for the benefit of the workers. And the problem is that in some areas people objected to it because they felt like the checkoff method was providing a method of taking their pay and using it for political purposes. That's something that the unions themselves should decide, not me or not government.
Well, and let me answer this because another important issue is going to be the immigration bill that's going to be coming up, and that's not going to be it's being addressed, but I don't think it's going to be finalized or anywhere close to it until you get in office and go to D.C. How is that going to be looking?
You talking about the immigration problem?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's very complicated, and I'm very open-minded about that. But I certainly feel that the 12 million people in America that got here, who are working here, who don't have criminal records, and who are trying to be good citizens, we certainly can't organize an army and move them back into some other country from whence they came. That's a serious problem. But I do think we ought to secure the borders and try to make certain that there's no influx of additional people who do not follow the rules in getting into this country. It's certainly a worse problem around Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico and California. But on the other hand, it affects the whole country. And I just wish that the Republicans and the Democrats and the president could get together and adopt some sensible rules and regulations about immigration, bearing in mind that children are born here of parents who may have come here illegally or innocent, and you got to be careful of what you do with them and not herd them like a bunch of cattle and move them back into wherever their parents came from.
Well, and that, yes, sir, that's true there too. And I mean, everybody's got a big idea on what we need to do with it, but nobody, and I think you just addressed it pretty good. Nobody has what are you going to do? You're just going to put a vast army, and I like that, a vast big army together and go around and collect all 12 million people and get rid of them. That's not going to happen in a million years. It's not possible. And, so that's, I agree with you on that. I know we're gonna divert just a little bit because Louis Wren, the current president of the AFL-CIO here in Louisiana. I know you're familiar with him quite well, but there was another one that he took his place. He took Sybil's place, but before that it was Victor Busey. I know you and Victor Busey went a long ways back, and just would like to ask you what your recollection of Victor Busey was.
I'm awfully sorry, but this phone on this end is very garbled. Can you basically summarize what you?
Yeah, what I just said is your recollection of Victor Busey, the past president of the Louisiana AFL-CIO that passed away. But you and him, go a long way back. What's your recollection about Victor Busey? Mike, asking for me. I don't think he can hear me.
Neal wants to know your recollections of and memories of the departed Victor Busey.
He and I were long-time political and personal friends, and he visited me often when I was in prison. His widow Fran and I are still good friends. We talk almost regularly on the telephone, and I regretfully was able to go to his funeral. It just tore me up because he had done so much for so many people, not just labor. Let me emphasize that. Victor Busey was a man who was concerned about children, about the health care, the welfare of everybody, not just working men and women, although he was very dedicated to them. And I felt like he was serving a very useful public service purpose by being the leader that he was for so many years in our state and in our nation.
Governor Edwards, we appreciate you coming, and we're not going to try to hold you much longer, but I've got a question. What would be your, if elected, what would be your first agenda in Congress? Where would you move? We have
mine's not if elected, mine's when elected.
Well, what would your first goal be if you enter Congress?
Bear in mind, I'm trying to be honest with people. Going up to Congress doesn't mean that I'll be able to push a magic button and get things done overnight. When you governor, you're the chief executive officer. You can make things happen because you have that power, limited, of course, to the borders of your state. In Congress, that's another, you're one of 435 people, and it just takes a lot of time to get things done. However, I plan to get on the Public Works Committee, which is going to afford me an opportunity to use my influence to get things done. I'm very concerned about the condition of the great industries along the Mississippi River in the 6th District and all the way down to New Orleans. They provide jobs for thousands of working men and women, and I want to make sure that government does what it can to get out of its way so that it can continue to produce goods and services and create jobs. I'm also concerned about the traffic conditions in Baton Rouge. We really need something to allow people to bypass the crowded traffic conditions in Baton Rouge. And my suggestion is that we do what San Antonio and Houston and Los Angeles and Chicago and other large cities have done, and that is to build a super transit area elevated over the existing interstate. Therefore, people going east to west on the interstate and we're not wishing to get into Baton Rouge can just take the upper ramp and bypass the city without it disturbing the businesses along the ground level interstate and making it possible for those of us who are using the ground level to have unrestricted travel. It's a long-range proposition, but it needs to be done. And I also support, hello?
Yes, sir.
I also support a high transit system between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. It's not going to happen in my lifetime, but it needs to get started. The government offered Governor General an $80 million grant several years ago to study the proposition to determine the feasibility of it, but for some reason he turned down the grant. But I'm going to try to recapture it so we can determine whether or not my plans are feasible. I do not support the concept of a toll road which parallels airline highway, because I think that would disrupt the present businesses along airline highway, and I don't think people in Louisiana are very interested in toll roads. There's a simpler and a speedier solution, in my opinion, and that is to build an elevated roadway on top of the existing interstate, which will not disturb or displace anybody, but would provide a smooth flow of traffic east and west for those who wish to bypass Baton Rouge.
Yes, sir. One last question, Governor, and I know you won't, there's no way you'll be voting on this, but as far as Louisiana accepting the Medicaid expansion, would you like to comment on that?
Say again?
The Medicaid expansion, federal Medicaid expansion that Governor Jindal is turning down. Would you like to comment on that?
That is really sad. Here's an opportunity to provide health care coverage for some 300,000 children, old people, underemployed people, and unemployed people, and doing it at no cost to Louisiana for 3 years. Thereafter, not over 10% of the cost. It is very badly needed in a state such as ours. Now, what is going to happen is these people without coverage are going to end up in the emergency rooms where hospitals have to take them even though they don't have money to pay for the services. And not only will it crowd the emergency rooms, making it difficult for others who do have money and do have health coverage to get emergency treatment. And at the same time, the cost of that treatment, which cannot be paid by the poor, will be factored into our bills and our insurance bills. And one way or the other, we're going to end up paying for the service, because in 2014, nobody in America should go to bed at night wondering whether or not if his child wakes up with 106 degrees of fever or some kind of dread disease, that the child will have to suffer in pain, unable to get attention. It's just not right.
Yeah, and Governor, this is Neal again, and I know you don't. I know you're not into getting a lot of credit for things, but of all the things that you've done for the state, what would be the one thing that you'd want to be remembered for?
Well, of course, I like the new Constitution that I was the father of, that we adopted in the 70s, which provided a better and a more stable government in Louisiana. I'm very proud of the fact that in 1986, I wrestled from the federal government a $640 million settlement on a long-standing lawsuit. Didn't put the money in my pocket or my friend's pocket. There's a lot of my enemies like to say. Instead of that, I gave bus drivers, school lunch workers, and teachers, and all in education, a one-time pay raise, which was badly needed. The rest of it, $540 million, was put in a constitutionally dedicated fund for education. The interest from it can be used and is used every year to aid colleges and universities. Now, what's good about that is now the fund has grown to where it's $1.2 billion sitting in the bank, invested for the benefit of the people of this state. No other state in the nation has such a fund, and no other governor in the history of our state left such a legacy for the people of Louisiana. I'm proud of that.
Well, and another thing, let's for the listeners, because I mean there is going to be a lot of negative stuff, especially after the poll came out with you ahead. But let's talk about every time you left office. Was it in shambles like it is now?
I'm sorry.
Every time that you left office, was it in shambles like it is now? Let's talk about when you left office and the condition of the state.
I've been out of prison for 3 years, and I hear nothing but complaints about the unresponsive attitude of government. Nobody seems to be able to get anybody to help them. Every day, even though I've not been in public office for years, people come to my house or call me on the telephone needing this for their children, needing help here, wanting to know how to contact somebody, having a Social Security problem. And Trina and I work almost daily helping people one by one to help resolve their problems. Don't always get it done, but I'm always available. I talk to people, and I listen to them, and I empathize with them, and I try to do what I can to help them. And that's one of the reasons I want to go to Congress, because I want to be in a position where everybody will have someone that they can talk to express their concerns and to try to get some help from government, because I think government is here to serve people, not to see how much damage they can do to people, not to see what kind of stumbling blocks they can put in, or how to tell them what church to go to, or what rules and regulations they need to be, as long as they're not damaging or hurting anybody else. People should be allowed to live out their lives.
But tell us about the upcoming campaign. What's on the horizon? What's your game plan?
Website.
Yeah, your website and you know how can our supporters get behind you and help you?
People want bumper stickers,
Yeah.
Governor.
They want yard signs. They want to know how they can get in this race and be positive. To make sure that you are elected.
Well, our campaign headquarters has been opened, and Trina and some of her friends are manning it on a daily basis. The phone number is 225-200. I'm sorry, that's another number. The address is, the phone number is at the office is 930-9006, and it's on Renwood Avenue, Renwood and Jefferson, and right on the corner. It's 7901 Renwood Avenue, Suite A.
Got it.
Okay. What about websites or anything like that? Do we have all that? I think, what's it looking like?
Well, let me repeat that phone number because I started off on the wrong number. It's 225-930-9006.
Okay.
Got it. 225-930-9006.
That's it.
Okay. All right.
Listen, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and let's keep in touch. It's a long campaign, but we're working hard and hope to be able to serve the people this time next year.
Thank you for coming on, Governor.
Thank you, Governor. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
And that was Edwin W. Edwards, and this is WTQT 106.1 LPFM. Neal, what's your reflections on what we said was pretty much a softball interview?
Yeah, and it was, and I mean I think that he is going to. I think he's going to do a great job once he's elected.
You think he's going to get elected?
I think he's going to get elected. I don't think it's even going to be a runoff.
Wow.
That's my belief. I don't think there's going to be a runoff.
Wow. I can't say the same thing. I mean, the district's cut out so hard to the right.
I believe. We got a caller.
I don't know.
I hope it ain't Joshua.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is you're on Baton Rouge Labor Radio. What's your name and where you from?
Good morning, Mike. This is Lewis Wren.
Lewis.
Good morning, Lewis.
I tried to call you yesterday, man. What's going on this morning?
I just wanted to call in after hearing former governor talk all the last couple of years that we've been dealing with the current administration. Hear somebody with the ambition to really work for the people and have concern for the people of this state and that district is so refreshing. To have seen the governor and an administration who was so anti-people and anti-citizens, to hear somebody talk about why somebody who goes to work every day should be able to at least have a wage to provide for their family, and somebody who believes that everybody loves their children enough that health care ought to be available for them. I just had to tell y'all how refreshing it was.
Well, that's what he said, huh?
And Lewis, and Mike, for your information, I think Lewis might be even reflecting a little bit because I was very distraught, very mad the other day after sitting in the with the hearing, like we were talking about before Edward, Governor called in. And Lewis is, I'm going to tell you what, Lewis is a trooper, and he's got real thick skin because the system, to watch the system, to watch these people that are supposed to be representing their constituents. I've got a picture of Pawnee up there texting while our people are giving testimony on why they think the bill that he introduced is bad. He's no more paying attention to the people that have come up there, taken off of work, and have come up there and they're giving testimony against his bill, and he's over there texting on his phone. I was very upset about that, and Lewis got an earful about all that.
Well, anyway,
Neal, there are some legislators that are very difficult to deal with, but you have to remember there are a lot of legislators who are elected, whose heart is in the right place, and they're good people. If people back home will participate in the system, then maybe we'll get to the place where they outnumber the rest of them. I'll share this with you. I ran into a legislator in the hall, and I usually work on the Senate side, so some of the particularly new House members I don't have as much of a relationship with, and he stopped me and he said, "I know you." I said, "Yes, sir. I testified against your bill yesterday." And I thought I was going to get a certain reaction. And he said, "Well, I want to thank you." I said, "No, I was on the other side of your bill." He said, "I don't care." He said, "If more people came up here and talked and realized about what we do and how it affects their lives, it would be a better system." And, I understand. I've been there. You get up in the morning and you go to work and you come home and you help your children with their homework and you've got ball games and politics just seems the least important thing. But how do we get people to realize everything that legislature does affects their lives? When people run for office, they're going to have a huge amount of say-so in your everyday life, your utility bill, your roads, your health care, your wages. And they can do in a very short period of time damage to your ability to provide for your family for a long time. And I just hope, and I've been on the station with other people on Election Day, and we talk about this. People have to wake up and start paying attention. You have people like the Koch brothers with a lot of money who want to run the country and make the rules because they're rich. They're not going to make rules that advantage working men and women. They're going to make rules that advantage rich folks because that's what they're spending their money for. And the only way to counteract that is to have a public who will listen to your previous speaker and say, there's somebody who will stand up for me. I need to get a little active in this process. I need to make sure I'm registered to vote. I need to make sure I go vote. People risk their life for me to have that privilege. I think you also, with that privilege, comes a responsibility to be informed on the issues and participate in voting on Election Day. I think the mere numbers that you see on Edwin Edwards, besides of his popularity, is a lot of the public who's bought into the Bobby Jindal agenda and thought it was a good idea and have seen this doesn't work for people. The idea that if we give big business everything, that they're going to take care of poor working folks, and that we're all for accountability in government until the private sector wants to put their hand into the public till. I think a lot of the public, and that reflects in Bobby Jindal's polling numbers, have had enough of this. And they want a government that says, I want to get out of your way until you need some help, but that's what government's supposed to be here. It's supposed to be for the people of the state. Our education system is not supposed to be run about what does every business want, but how do we better educate our citizens and have them in a place to take advantage of the opportunities that come. You, as much as anybody, Neal, know the work that's coming to this area. The number one challenge in what government ought to be about is, if all this work is coming, how do we better the citizens of Louisiana?
That's the bottom line.
We looked at we look at the coast and the damage that's done by some business, and we did that for short-term gains. In this next boom, how do we make sure that people go from $8 an hour to $18 an hour? They get to OJT and the experience that if the boom goes to bust, they have the skills to provide for their family with lifelong learning and transferable skills. That's what our government ought to be concentrating on. Economic development ought to be to provide opportunities for our citizens, not to give huge amounts of money to business and tell them they don't have to pay taxes. But when we attract people to our state and businesses to our state, the whole point of that is so that our people can have better jobs, not that we can import people from foreign countries and leave our people at the wayside.
Well, Lewis, we're going to, I know Mike's got some other things that we're going to be talking about, or we're good. But I just want to let you know that, that we don't, and it's not about the praise, but I'm going to give you your administration a little praise. We had asked the governor earlier his recollection of Victor Busey, and he talked about how great of a man he was. And, right after that, we did bring up you and also Sybil. And I want the listeners to know that Victor Busey was one of the greatest labor leaders of all time in Louisiana by far. And with that being said, he left at a time that was it was trying times, and and he didn't leave on purpose. It was just it was time for him to step down, and he knew it. But I can promise the listeners, I can promise our members, and I can promise everybody else, with Lewis's administration of Julie Cherry and Ernest Stevens and the group of girls that he's got working for him up there, I can promise you, they talk about big shoes to fill, that Lewis and his administration are filling those shoes that were left by Victor Busey. And I, for one, and it showed at their last convention a couple of months ago when they went in unopposed, and I think that speaks volumes about Lewis's administration. For you to go in unopposed is not only a great thing, but it's an honor, and I want to personally thank you for all the members of Local 198 and the Baton Rouge area building and trades for the great job that your administration does.
Yeah, thank you for all of that. I'll tell you, Mr. Busey was a legend and an icon in the state. I never pretend to be able to fill Mr. Busey's shoes. And the success we have is not mine. It belongs to the labor movement, your retirees, your members, the other people across the state. There's a whole team who works at the legislature. And what I want your listeners to know is that when the labor movement is successful, people get a little more money on their paycheck. They get a safer workplace. They get better work rules. They get better opportunity. If at the end of the day that's what happens for the citizens of the state of Louisiana, whether they pay union dues or not, then we've been a success. That success belongs to all the people in the labor movement who fight for what's right and just. And I just have the privilege of sometimes being a spokesman for them. So it's just a great honor to represent the labor movement. But the success belongs to the members and to the leadership across the state who are willing to stand up and fight the battles.
Real quick, Lewis, this is Mike Day.
Yeah, you couldn't tell.
You couldn't tell.
Yes, it is. You're right.
My concern, right in the last few minutes that we have, and I'm sure I know our members are concerned, what's going on with that plumbing bill in the legislature? Now, I know it got out of committee. Got a call yesterday that, it did come out of committee. Can you give us anything on that?
And I put the call was, Lewis, I put the robocall out. So,
well, let me describe this about the process. It is a long process. In order to pass a bill, you have to usually get at least 4 positive votes. I will tell you that committee hearing is a prime example of what I try to tell people every day. When you have a coordinated effort, you do your homework, and you can get a group of people to support an issue ahead of time and have the rails greased, that's what you saw at that committee hearing. Will the public that's affected by that bill, who have concerns about, I'm sure the code they want is cheaper. I'm sure it's simpler. But at the end of the day, is it safer? And so if we can educate the public and the people about, hey, here's something that because somebody wants to make a little more money or cut a few corners, that's going to put your safety at jeopardy. If enough people hear that, understand it, and oppose it, then that's going to make a difference. If you let a well-organized group of people go down there and there is no concerted effort to oppose it, then it's going to pass.
Well, and I'm going to throw a couple little things out there for people that don't know about plumbing. You have to have a vent. You have to have some kind of vent to allow a free flow of the sanitary waste that's going to the sewer. If you don't have the vent, it's going to clog up. And this new plumbing law they want is saying that you can restrict the vent sizes. We had one of the contractors, and it wasn't a union contractor at that. Had one of the contractors that came and said that what you're going to do is going to choke the venting system down, and you're not saving no money. You're going from a 3-inch to a 2-inch. We're talking pennies. We're not talking that much money. But they're gonna restrict it down. So, but again, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, and my members are fixing to be very much educated. I just got a text. Lewis said it sounds in your voice like you need to go see a movie.
No.
I wonder who that's from.
I know you're a movie buff, but getting me to sit still that long is a challenge.
Well, Lewis, we appreciate you calling in. We got about 2 minutes. We're getting ready to wrap up the show. Do you have any closing comments?
Well, I appreciate what y'all do every Saturday morning. I think we're going to have some great news for the public about some expanded activities, hopefully going to come down the road. But for y'all to be there on a Saturday mornings, put together the interview like you had with the former governor, for opportunity for people to be up on the issues. It's a great thing. I appreciate your listeners and our opportunity to chat with them on Saturday mornings. Thank you for what you do, and good luck to y'all.
Thanks, Lewis. Thanks for calling in. And this is WTQT 106.1 LPFM. We're on this is Baton Rouge Labor Radio, and we are broadcast on WTQT.org also. We're also on Shreveport, channel K31.2, Alexandria, K38.2. And
it's on TV.
That's on TV, Neal. We're rebroadcast on Facebook, Baton Rouge Local Union 198, or you can go to my Facebook page, Michael D. Day, and you can pick up the rebroadcast. Brandon Slim Langwall, I have it up there hopefully today. The interview with former Governor Edwin W. Edwards, and it was a good interview, Neal. You did very good with that. Also, Lewis,
Mike, and I'm going to interrupt you.
We got 15 seconds.
I've got 15 seconds. 15 seconds to tell the people that interview was Mike Day. He's a trooper. He went through the right process and got it done. Take the credit.
And I'm sure Governor Edwards and I know Lewis Wren and me and Neal agree that if you work for free, you'll always have a job. Live better, work union. Have a good weekend.